Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video, and I haven't done a video like this in a long time because I've really been focused on the gaming side of things, and also I've been working a lot, so apologies for that. But I should say active on YouTube, but that will change hopefully now that for the AFL finals have come around. Of course, the Cricket World Cup's coming around in just over a month's time. Of course, for motor racing, the Bathurst 1000 as well, that comes around. Obviously, this time of the lead-up endurance event, which I'll preview, the Sandown 500, and obviously, yes. So for this video, I did this last year for all 18 clubs, and I'm going to do it again. But with slight changes. So this first episode, you'll be looking at the title of the video, and you go, why have I got Essendon up first? Because last year I didn't last, and I did a rant about it, and it went sort of well. It went okay, pretty much. That video. This one is a bit of a part two to this, because pretty much, of course, adding the 2023 season and I was going to do 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9th, so on and so forth. I'm going to try and get through positions 18th to 9th, 9th to 18th. Before the finals start, and then I was ideally wanting to get through these through the pre-finals bye, but I don't think that's gonna happen now. So originally I was gonna go, West Coast, North Melbourne, Hawthorn. I've just given away what the other episodes were. But following what has happened to the Essendon Football Club, of course, the team that I barracked for and I've been a member for so many years, after what happened over the last fortnight, I had no choice but to make them first up. I had no choice, really. And this time around, I'm still gonna do, do the highlights, the lowlights, who were the best players, who at the club, if it was a player, a coach, or someone else, or the whole club, or a whole playing group, would be under pressure, and then also finally give them a rating out of 10 as well, for the season. I'm still going to do that, but this time I want to make together a bit of a timeline all the way back to when they made finals, when Essendon made finals in 2021, and I've got this in my notes here. I'll title it "The Timeline from Hell," because since that finals game against the Western Bulldogs in 2021, it's been all bar downhill, pretty much, with a bit of uphill signs, pretty much. But yeah, so the timeline here, August. So all of this started back in August 2021, when I remember Essendon in Ben Rutten's official first season as coach. I remember he was co-coach with John Worsfold back in 2020, and we all know how that went. Where everyone was tipping us to be bottom end. Some people even tipped us to wooden a spoon that year. And despite us only, I think I remember rightly, I believe we were only we were only in the 8 in 2020 in the whole 2021 home and away season 4 weeks. We ended up making finals in 8th position. which was great pretty much for them. Unfortunately, on August 29, we ended up losing by 49 by 8 goals against the Western Bulldogs. We were in the game up until half time, but then throughout most of the third quarter, but the last quarter it really just went out of control for us, and that's when our season really did end. It did end for us during the off season. We signed. We all thought that us Essendon fans at the time, even me, I must admit, thought we hit the jackpot when we signed Jake Kelly from the Adelaide Crows as an unrestricted free agent. But unfortunately, this is probably the first sign that things weren't going to go our way, was when we didn't recruit any players by the trade period. We were interested in Bobby Hill, but that unfortunately didn't go through. And then the season later, how appropriately, he would go to none other than Collingwood. So yeah, so there you go on that front. And then in the national draft and the rookie draft, we brought in Ben Hobbs, Alistair Lord, Garrett Madonge, and of course Patrick Voss via the rookie draft. And then pre-season 2021, everybody in the media was tipping us to go to next level. Was tipping us to go to the next level. Some people it tipped us to win to make finals again, or go deep in the finals. Even Mick Morehouse even tipped us to win the freaking premiership. There you go. But obviously, it did not go that well. It went horribly wrong. We ended up winning only 2 games throughout the whole first half of the season, and two of those wins, by the way, were against the Adelaide side, which if Tex Walker kicked the goal with 20 seconds left, we would have lost that game. And the Hawthorn game, we kicked 8 goals in the last quarter because basically the playing group just looked at Ben Rutten and go, "Hang on, our season's on the line here." So the grimmest part of it is, if those things had happened, we would have gone winless throughout the entire first half of the season. That was a possibility. That's how bad the Essendon were in the first half of 2022. But nothing was happening, out of screen. It wasn't helped by the fact that the players were talking out of their backsides pretty much throughout most of 2022, just saying stuff like, we're improving with this, we're improving with that, we're improving with that, we're improving with this, but unfortunately they didn't back it up on the freaking field. So pretty much, and then the first real sign that things were really starting to go downhill in terms of the current board, which was at the time was, CEO was Xavier Campbell, the president was Paul Brasher, and of course the coach obviously was Ben Rutten. The first sign of unease at the club was in May when it was announced that Xavier Campbell had been re-signed as CEO for another 2 years, and that drew a lot of criticism. Apparently a lot of Essendon fans and members were upset by the announcement, and Paul Brasher unfortunately had to address that with the supporters and the members as well. As well, yeah, and then after, where things were starting to go a bit, were starting to be on the up. Paul Brasher resigned from his role as president of the Essendon Football Club. He was replaced, and his replacement was Dave Barham, who'd been on the Essendon board for several years apparently, and we all thought what's going on here. And then afterwards, obviously at that point we started to fall down the cliff in terms of our results. I mean, we lost because we all thought that maybe when North Melbourne, and obviously the performances, of course, with winning in Sydney, who would go on to make the grand final. Collingwood, still pains me to imagine that game after Jamie Elliott freaking broke my heart after the siren. I still can't imagine that. And then of course North Melbourne games. We're pretty much we were building to. We were still not on the right track, but building in the building. Then we lost to GWS, which was an embarrassing performance. We didn't turn up on that day. Then we got smashed by Port Adelaide, which alarm bells started to ring very, very, very loudly with the Essendon Football Club. It was around that sort of time that Barham finally targeted Alistair Clarkson, who at that stage was a coaching free agent at the time, because obviously the year earlier he left Hawthorn not on good terms. At that stage, there was rumours pre-2022 that from the exit of the 2021 season to the 2022 season that he was going to coach Carlton, and with the vacancy at Carlton after David T got sacked, he said no, and then eventually they chose Michael Voss. And then this one again, there was two roads for Clarko to go. It was either go to Essendon or head back home to North Melbourne. Their GWS was mostly also in that, but it was mostly down Essendon, North Melbourne. And unfortunately, with the fact that Paul Brasher had resigned that late into the season, Xavier Campbell was certain and were backing Ben Rutten 110%. And then when Dave Barham took charge, he was definitely certain that obviously he didn't give to be fair, didn't give a stuff about Ben Rutten's position. All we wanted to get was the best coach, and Alistair Clarkson, which I do get. You know, you do have to. Of course, Clarko is the greatest coach of his generation. Obviously, he would have to go. We'd be naive and stupid if we didn't, give Clarko an offer to coach Essendon. And then on the other side of things, that I believe he disrespected Ben Rutten's role and possibly disrespected Truck himself, because if I was Truck, I would say, hey, why are you at the time? Why are you looking at bringing him as coach while one, I'm still coaching the club, and two, I've got a contract. So I would get why he would get mostly aggrieved. And then obviously it ended, and then obviously the season ended obviously with obviously if I take a bit of a step back, Clarko then announced that he would be coaching North Melbourne. So basically, Essendon, Dave Barham, and all the team had to go back to Tullamarine with their tails between their legs, because, and I say that because There's this coach that was crying out for someone to just choose, and I do get why Paul Brasher and Xavier Campbell would back Ben Rutten, but there's this guy who is the greatest AFL coach of his generation, just sitting there. Why would you not make an offer? I still don't know. I still to this day, a year later, don't know why Paul Brasher and all that didn't consider saying, Clarko's on the sidelines. Why don't throw him an offer to coach the club? And unfortunately, Ben Rutten, you're gone. Which, speaking of Ben Rutten, you're gone. After not even 12 hours after the last game against Richmond, we got thumped by 11 goals, which was not surprisingly, of course, they were playing finals, obviously. Dave Barr, it was announced that Ben Rutten got the sack as coach of Essendon after a finals appearance in 2021. They linked them with the fifth place, they went from 8th place, finals appearance and 11 wins, to 15th place and later, no finals appearance and only the 7 wins for the season. So some people might be asking me, 12 months down the track, has your mind changed? Or not, or as you want to change that situation or not. I still think to this day that I think Dave Barra made the right call. I still think he made the right call, or the board made the right call of sacking Ben Rutten because because to go from 8th position and finals to basically down the lower ridges of the ladder in 1 year, that's not good enough. That was just not good enough. And the shocking vision of when, I remember, even during the North Melbourne game, when we won by 8 goals, Nick Hine on the bench just ignoring Ben Rutten, that was just basically, at that stage, we didn't know it at the time, but the writing was on the wall at that time, that he lost the players, and as a coach, when you lose the players and their faith, and when the players lost faith in you as a coach, that's when my position is not safe, and it did, and it happened. So the question is, 12 months down the track, do I still think they made the right decision in sacking Ben Rutten? Yes. But I still think that the way that Dave Barham went about it before Ben Rutten's sacking was, as I said, disrespectful. Absolutely disrespectful to Ben Rutten. And the fact that he did that to try and get Alistair Clarkson, and it failed. And only appropriately that he sacked him 4 days after Clarko made the call of coaching North Melbourne. And of course there was uncertainty around the club's future, like in the trade period, like we're all wondering who we're going to get, because obviously we're not going to get anyone because they're going to be like, who's the coach? Then things turned around. That on September 29, 2022, we signed Brad Scott as our new senior coach, and I remember Dave Barham saying, "Oh, this is the biggest thing in the history of the Essendon Football Club," and I thought, "Oh, it's a pretty bold statement." And I thought I was happy with it until one of his first press conferences as coach, when he said we need to take time and time with this side, which basically became the buzzwords throughout the majority of his 2023 pressos, by the way. At that stage, I simply thought, I'm sorry, if someone said that to me 10 years ago, I would accept it. But the fact of the matter is that this team, that people around this club and that are just saying false, selling false hopes for the last decade. I was like saying, you know what, nah. We want patience. Us Essendon fans have been waiting for 19 freaking years for this side to win a final, and you come out and say, the fans need to be patient. We have been patient enough. That was what my first thought was when I saw this. It was one of his. As I said, it was one of Brad Scott's first press conferences as Essendon coach, or first interviews as Essendon coach, and he said that, and I was like, oh, come on, we've been patient long enough. We've been patient long enough, and you're demanding us more patience. When is that patience gonna wear thin? It's already wear thin, and it's already about here with the patience with the Essendon Football Club right now. So yeah. Then we got to the trade period, where we recruited former Melbourne key forward Sam Wiedemann as a partnership with 2 Metre Peter Wright, obviously the reigning best and fairest winner, and then former Giant and Blue Will Setterfield was also recruited. And fun fact, before he went to Carlton, by the way, in that trade period, he was also at that time linked to Essendon. He was linked to both Essendon and Carlton, but chose Carlton. So it's come full circle, pretty much. That he's basically chose, I'm gonna go to Essendon now. After the fact that is, instead of joining a Carlton side, that basically has full of midfielders in Cripps, Walsh, Kennedy, Hewitt, Chera, all these guys. Obviously, he's not going to get any game time with that midfield group, but to be honest. But unfortunately, we lost Aaron Francis to Sydney, which was great. It was surprisingly, I knew he would leave, but I'm surprised that he went to Sydney for someone who's from South Australia. So yeah. And then in the draft, we drafted Elijah Tasadis. I did not know originally how to say that last name, but now I know how. Now I know after all the commentators have said it, is Tasadis. Lewis, and then also we drafted Lewis Hayes, and then the 2 Davey brothers in Alwyn Jr. and Jaden. Unfortunately, Jaden didn't play all of this year because of a knee injury. Or I think it was a knee reconstruction. So he was out for a full season. Hopefully we'll see him play his first game next year. And Alwyn Jr., he showed a bit of promise in his first season, but he just looked most of the time like a lost puppy out there, to be honest. Didn't know what he was doing half the time. Hopefully with a pre-season under his belt, and maybe working on it, and maybe some putting on a bit of muscle on him, then maybe or a bit of smartness, learning from McDonald, Tip and Woody, that maybe he could potentially improve in 2024. Who knows? But yeah. So then we get to pre-season 2024. We versed St Kilda in the only practice game. Also, we come off of beating the Gold Coast in the unofficial practice game. But in the official AFL practice game, we versed St Kilda at RC Oval. At I would presume, which was at St Kilda's, training ground and home base for the St Kilda Football Club. We're not losing that one by 35 points. We ended up kicking the first 3 goals of the game with the wind, and I labelled it as their worst performance I've ever seen. I know I'm a bit harsh because it was a practice game, but I expected a lot more than that from Essendon. Because we ended up with the exact same scoring shots as St Kilda, I ended up losing the game by 6 goals, and that was not good enough. I was not expecting much from Essendon, to be honest, pre-season, and then obviously when in the third quarter when we again had kicked with the wind, we only kicked 1 goal. I think it was 1 goal 6 or 1 goal 7 in that third quarter compared to St Kilda, who was kicking against the wind, and they had, I think it was about 3 goals, I believe. So the performance is not good enough really from Essendon, really, to be honest with you. And I wasn't expecting much, and I even tipped against Essendon for round 1 against Hawthorn, which we all know how that went. We ended up smashing them by 10 goals, which was a glimpse of things to come, really from the first half of the season. We ended up winning 4 of our first 5 games. The most impressive one, obviously, out of that run was against Melbourne in Gather round. We really did shock Melbourne in that game. The sole loss, obviously, not surprisingly, was to the team that was also equal top with us in St Kilda, where we gave them a 5-goal head start. We came back, but it was like but we pretty much ran out of legs after we got level with them midway through the last quarter, and then they sort of kicked away. We ended up winning the game by 5 goals. Anyways, so then we ended the first half of the season. We entered the bye 6th on the ladder with 8 wins for the season, which was basically a sign of pretty much maybe we could eye making finals in our first season under Brad Scott as coach. Then things really started to pick up after the course. We all know what happened against Port Adelaide. We all know that at home, where of course taking a step back, we ended up losing to Fremantle in a disappointing game. Then we lost to Port Adelaide, where I still think, in my mind, looking back at it now, that goal from Jai Caldwell to put us, I think it was about 3 points in front, with about 90 seconds to go in the game. I think that happened, about a minute, maybe 45 seconds too early, because it had enough time for Port Adelaide to really, for us to really hold on. We weren't going to hold on. Our defence was not really going to hold on really for 90 seconds with the leader we've got, and unfortunately ended up in Dan Houston's hands, and we all know how that went. But the next week against Port Adelaide, we came out absolutely firing. It was the best first half I've ever seen from the boys from the Dons this season. Our pressure was great. Now on the other end of things, we really got our chances and really killed Adelaide on the scoreboard. The second half was a bit of a dreary affair, but obviously we ended up winning that game. And everyone was like, "Oh, could we break our finals drought?" And then we ended up. And then, if you're wondering when does the downhill run going to happen, it's now. We ended up losing 5 of our 7 games, and the two games which we did win, expectedly, North Melbourne and West Coast. Against West Coast, we had to get Kyle Langford. We had Kyle Langford to get us out of jail to win that one by a point, and we ended up winning by 9 points against North Melbourne. Then the other games we ended up losing, like Sydney. It was a great comeback. Obviously, we were behind for most of that game, and I mean the Western Bulldogs one, which ended up started the collapse, obviously, for us. Actually, no, it was a Geelong game. But a week later against the Western Bulldogs, I was expecting a response, and we didn't really get that, and I was really flat after that game. But yeah, and we all thought the writing was on the wall. Writing was on the wall after those two, I must say, disappointing victories against West Coast and North Melbourne. And then the GWS came, and that struggle became crystal clear, because in a finals game we all thought, right, we were still in a chance of making finals if we needed some luck to do it, but yeah, what did we do? We ended up losing the game by 21 goals. It was piss poor. I watched 3 out of the 4 quarters of that GWS game, and it was embarrassing to watch. It was full blown embarrassing to watch that, to see what did just transpire. It was just unbelievable, and I thought to myself, surely, I mean. It's not about, and this is all about effort. A final spot was on the freaking line, and yet mentally they weren't up for it. They just weren't up for it, and it's signaled like amazing problems. Like we all know, as you guys all know, we are in the race to sign Ben Mackay from North Melbourne. I instantly went after that game going, we need a hell of a lot more than Ben Mackay to basically get us out of this hole. We need more than that. If we were to lose 3 or 4 players, it's fine. It's fine. But we need to get more than Ben Mackay. To be honest, and I still say that. And I was expecting a big response out of Collingwood. It's a big response out of the boys against Collingwood, but I was expecting a big response from Collingwood considering their recent form heading into the game. And what I witnessed in the first quarter and a half of last Friday night, I just did not know what I was seeing. I just did not know what I was seeing. 11 consecutive goals. I just thought, I was screaming at the TV going, give me effing effort. That's what I was screaming at. I was screaming, and I was just going, my God. That's what I was doing, because I just felt like I was watching a replay of the GWS game the week before. It just felt like it. And it just was, and it left a bitter taste in my mouth, to be honest. It just felt like a kick to the guts, to feel like a final spot, even though it was a very, very the slimmest of chances, a spot in the finals was right there, and instead of that, they just boom closed the door. The players just just did not want to make finals. They just all that they cared about. I'm still saying this now. I don't care what anybody says. If what I'm about to say is harsh, I don't give a stuff. But the players, all they were focused about is their off-season holidays, which is another kick in the guts for me and for my fellow Essendon supporters and members. It's a kick to the guts because we've had to endure this for the last 20 years. We've had to endure this. And all that the players care about is their off-season freaking holidays. You might as well go to freaking Windy Hill and have a freaking cut lunch. Yeah, so sorry, I was trying to keep a straight face, but now I'm trying to keep a straight face. But yeah, it was just it just felt like with that. I just felt like it was an extra kick. It's like someone just kicked me in the nuts, and then on the way out, and then while they were walking off, they just kicked me in the head. It just felt like it in a way. So at the end of the day, we scrambled our way to 11th position with 11 wins for the season, which was again an improvement. But is it really an improvement? Really? Is it really an improvement? Well, so now we get to the review section of this here. I've just gone 36 and a half minutes into this to do the timeline. So yeah. So as I said, last year, 15th on the ladder, 7 wins. 7 wins to their name. And then 7 wins to their name after making finals in 2021. It was very disappointing. 4 wins, 4 positions better off with 11th position, and 4 wins better off with 11 wins. The percentage improved. It was 83.2% in 2022. It was up by 89.7%. It was mostly in the 100 range for most of the season until the latter half of the year, to be honest. Yeah. So the last. So let's get into the highlights here. So the sole highlight I've got from Essendon season. And I haven't mentioned this in this video yet, but the third quarter against Carlton game, it was really was one of the best quarters I've ever seen from this Essendon side. I've seen plenty of other quarters. I remember I went to the West Coast game. I went to the West Coast game back in 2017, where we kicked them out of the game with a 7-goal second quarter. They kicked 5 goals in the first, I think, 10-15 minutes of that second quarter in that game back in 2017 against West Coast. But this one, I think I can't remember that. I think I can remember. I was just on my feet for the entire third quarter. That's how excited I was about that, not knowing that, of course, eventually it would turn into be a false dawn. But the stats said here. So basically, we ended up scoring 7 goals to 2 in that third quarter. And this is the strangest part. So Carlton had more of the ball. 93 plus 2 in disposals. We had more kicks than them, plus 3 to be exact. Carlton had way more handballs, plus in terms of plus 4. Plus 4 to Carlton. But then this is where it all changes. So inside 50, we had 6 more inside 50s than Carlton in that third quarter. And this is where this is where pretty much the third quarter and pretty much the game that night against Carlton was won and lost. The clearances in that. So pretty much it was close to even in terms of stoppage clearances, but it was the centre clearances that really we tore them apart. Where we kicked seven, and that was, by the way, also we had guys like Patrick Cripps in there as well, as well, and also I think Sam Walsh as well, and yet they only managed in that quarter 2 centre clearances, while we had 7. One of those, and I think 2 of those ended in goals. For centre bounce goals. I remember the one where basically Draper tapped down, got his own ball, handballed to Guelphy, then to Caldwell, back to Guelphy, then handballed it to Menzies, who was also who pretty much had a breakout year as well. Unfortunately, he didn't make the cut in terms of the players I'm about to talk about next. And who kicked the goal, and I remember the crowd ended up was roaring. I jumped up out of my seat pretty much. Jumped up here pretty much, just sprinted up here as well. But yeah, so yeah. Speaking about that, also I forgot to mention. Probably I forgot an honourable highlight. Obviously was Dragon Time. Obviously that point. Obviously. Fun fact, obviously, let me turn this camera around. Oh, shit. Almost lost the camera. So I'll turn this around here. Sorry for my messy room here. So pretty much, I was right here. I was right here by my door, and when Durham kicked that goal, turn the camera back around. Again, guys, sorry for my messy bedroom, by the way. And I was, when he kicked the goal, I was like, bounce the bloody, I was like screaming at the TV, telling the umpire, bounce the bloody ball, because it was 7 seconds left. I didn't know there was actually a striker on the ground at that time as well. And when the siren sounded, I just... If you guys are a fan of the Premier League and you know Jurgen Klopp, I pretty much did a Jurgen Klopp by pretty much just jumping up and down. I almost jumping up and down. I pretty much did this. I almost did the exact same thing when you remember a few weeks ago when the Matildas won against France in the penalty shootout in the quarter final. I almost did that. that one was probably better, but that one. I just felt like yes, because we had Richmond had a wood over us for many years, and yeah, so yeah. But back on the Carlton game, so yeah, that was pretty much the most exciting and one of the most exciting quarters I think I've ever seen from Essendon in my time as a supporter and member. To be honest with you, as said, back on the Essendon's improvement. I remember, I think it was on Monday on the couch, on Fox Footy, talked about this. I said this earlier. Improvement, really, yeah, because we just can't defend. Simple as that. Doesn't matter what coach, we just can't defend. Because yeah, so we were 16th in terms of points against. We were 16th. We were 16th in 2022 under Ben Rutten to 15th there, +1, and then call that an improvement? Not really. Defending ball movement, 17th in 2022 to 15th in 2023. Is that a bit of an improvement? Oh, that one I would go 50-50, but mostly I would go no. Pressure last in 2022 to 17th in 2023. Only been beaten, I would presume, by West. The only one that didn't that was below them in terms of pressure was, I would presume, West Coast Eagles. Is that an improvement also? That's a definite no. So yeah. So that is, so as I said, is as it was an improvement from Essendon, really? Not really, to be honest. In terms of position and wins, yes. But in terms of statistics, like I just read out there, that's a no, to be honest. In terms of defensively, no. So yeah. The lowlights were the last two games of the season against GWS and Collingwood, which these stats are not good reading, by the way. From the last 2 weeks for Essendon. Points out of the two games, points for were 8 goals, 19, 67 points. That was points for, which was points scored by Essendon. Points against Essendon, 41 goals. We conceded 41 goals, 17. That is just absolutely outrageous, to be honest. It was just absolutely ridiculous, really. And pretty much the way that we lost both our games against GWS and Collingwood was based on the first quarter, because the first quarter scores combined out of the two games, 1-8, which is in terms of Essendon, 1-8, to Collingwood and GWS combined, 15 goals for. Yeah, which basically we lost the game before it even started, pretty much in those two games. Then the points differential between basically dropped to the point where pretty much obviously it was minus 34 the combined margin in the fourth quarter between those. So yeah, and then the first half, and then the halves between the first half and the second half. I don't need to explain it. It's absolutely embarrassing, really. But yeah, those stats are not good reading, really, for the Essendon Football Club, really. Yeah. So my rating for the season, I was close to giving them a 5 out of because of the last month and a half of the season. But then again, you know, before that, we were playing some really good footy and that, especially at the start of the season. So I managed to give them, you know, half a point up, maybe 5.5 out of 10. Was my guess for them. Players, course, one at the top, the new skipper himself, Zach Merritt. I mean, his stats show. I mean, his first season as Essendon skipper, taking over from Dyson Heppel. He averaged 28, just under 29 touches a game. He averaged close to 15.5 kicks per game. 13 and a half handballs a game. Up by 0.5 from his career average to 13 per game. 5.1 marks per game, up by his career stats on that front for 4.1 marks per game. 5.5 tackles per game, which is one that is definitely he's improved on this year, and 4.7 total clearances per game in 2023. On the other hand, on the flip side, being his career, because basically, bar the one game, obviously in 2016 when he was captain, or some of the times that he did replace Dyson Heppel at times as skipper. 27, of course, just over 27 disposals, career disposals a game. 14, just over 14 career kicks per game. 13 career handballs a game. 4.1 career marks per game. 5.2 career tackles per game, and in terms of career total clearances in his career, he's averaged 3.8 on that front as well. So yeah, and I would presume, and I hope that his captaincy goes another level this year, next year, hopefully, for the sake of the Essendon Football Club, really. Next up, we have Kyle Langford, and who would have thought we would have Kyle Langford as a key forward for us that kicked 50 goals. We all said that about Peter Wright last year, and it's happened again this time with Kyle Langford. By the way, what's the bet that he does a Peter Wright next year, where he gets injured, misses most of the season, comes back late, and does his stuff, and does glimpses of what he did the previous season? What's the bet that that's going to happen? Really, but before the 2023 season, he only scored 77 goals in the 106 games he's played. At an average of 0.7, not even a goal per game, because mostly he was playing roles in the midfield, and even at some parts in 2023 this year in the back line as well. But really, Brad Scott really did play him a lot more as a key forward. Oh shit! Sorry for that, guys. Let me fix that up. There we go. Sorry, guys. Just accidentally bumped the selfie stick, and the camera fell. But where was I? Oh yes. So he's played him more as a key forward this year, and he's kicked 50. He kicked 51 goals in 20. I think in 23 games. I have to check that. I think he played in all 23 games for Essendon, I believe. I think, or something like that. I don't know. But he obviously, and if you heard of recently, it was announced that he was be a member of the All-Australian 44 squad that would be considered for the initial, that would be the main ones to be considered to be a part of the main All-Australian team. So that alongside with Zach Merritt and the next guy that we're going to be talking about, which is Mason Redman, Red Dog. I needed to do that. I every time that Mason Redman kicks a goal, I do this. I just do this every single time. And even when he's close to the goal, I say, please kick it, so I can do that celebration. A lot of the times he just gets there, but he just kicks it deep to Peter Wright, and it doesn't work out very well. But he's definitely one of those that improved. His stats showed themselves. He's throughout his whole career, he averaged 18, just over 18 touches a game. This year he averaged just under 22. In terms of kicks, in his career he averaged 12.6 kicks per game. It jumped by a considerable amount in 2023 to 16.5. He throughout his entire career has not been a big hand passer. That's why his numbers are so low, at 5.6 for his entire career, and it went down by a tiny bit to 5.4 throughout 2023. Marks went up by one, 5 marks per game for his career, and it went up in 2023 to 6 marks per game. Tackles went down a bit from 2.2 for his career to 1.9, and then in terms of meters gained, he gained considerable amount throughout his career, from 353.6, just over 353 and a half meters gained per game, up to almost 473 per game, which is a massive amount, obviously, for him, for Red Dog. as well, and he was also alongside with Langers and also the skipper in Zach. He was also named in the Australian 44 as well, which I was a bit iffy about his performances at times this year, but he has performed well. He has deserved that 4-year contract extension, really, because there was really big interest from Adelaide on that front. The last player I want to talk about is a guy that I was surprised that he was left out of the Australian 44, really, and he really flew under the radar. And I believe the AFL have a new Martin on their hands. We all know about Dusty. We all know about Dusty, but in another season, this guy we should be talking about him more, and that is Nick Martin. What a story he's been, pretty much. He got on the list for Essendon last year, about 2 weeks before the first game against Geelong. He was picked for round 1. We all know how we went. We ended up losing by 11 goals. We should have lost by more. But he ended up getting 28 touches and 5 goals and got the Rising Star nomination in round 1. Didn't end up winning the Rising Star because some kid by the name of Nick Dacos, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, ended up winning it. But judging by these, like the threshold on AFL.com.au in terms of stats, like from average, in terms of elite, average, above average, average, below average, it just chops and changes over years. So pretty much in terms of disposals, he was 19.9. He had just under 20 touches a game in 2022. And then this year upped considerably to 22, and it was considered average. So probably it was an elite by a first year player, to be honest. 2020 in terms of kicks, 2022 it was under 11 per game. This one was up by just over 12.5 per game. Handballs, it was 9.2 per game in 2022, and it was up a little bit to 9.4 in 2023. Marks, we all know he's very elite at that. Can take a really good mark, really. Really good mark, really. Yeah, but it was down a little bit at 5.9 in 2022. 5.4 this year, down on the 5.9, almost the 6 marks per game in 2022. In terms of tackles, not surprisingly for an Essendon player, 2.2 tackles per game compared to 1.7 last year. And then clearances, he's not a big. He started in a little bit of this year. It started to get more of an inside midfielder, but mostly played on the wing. Hopefully he gets some more inside midfield minutes next year. So hopefully those clearance numbers, hopefully from 1.3 and 1.6 from 2023 and 2022, hopefully they go up a little bit more next year and also in the coming years as well. And the one thing also I was impressed by was his work rate. I remember there was a play against Adelaide where he took an intercept mark, where he took an intercept mark, he kicked it, and then pretty much by the end of the play, he was the guy that gave the handball away to Zach Merritt, who would go on to kick a goal. And then about a minute after that, I think it was also in the back line as well. I think he also cleared it away as well. And in the end, he ended up having a shot on goal over it. He kicked a goal as well. So his work rate really did impress me throughout the initial periods of the season, really, for Nick Martin. And hopefully that a new Martin, as I said, has hit town in the AFL. In the form of Nick Martin. Obviously he's still young, and hopefully goes the next level in 2024. So yeah. Lastly, I under pressure, I'm putting this. I think I did this. I did put this on him last year. If not, I'm probably going to do it to him, and it's Dave Barham. If we want, there's two things need to change at this club. Two things need to change this club. The first change I would do, as this video is now gone for over an hour. The first change I would do is straight up. I know Angel Dodoro has been a part of this football club for such a long time. I'm sorry, he needs to go. He's the first one that needs to go. Because how many times that he has put together a list and it's fallen short? So many times. We need a fresh face in terms of the list management department. We need a new face. We need a new face, and I believe, I'm sorry to say this, but Adrian Dodoro is not going to be our list manager when we win our next premiership at this rate. All we're going to do is going to be mediocre season after mediocre season after mediocre season if he stays. That's what I think. I think if Dave Barham, what he said, or what he means is true, that he wants change at the Essendon Football Club when with his presidency. If it's true, he needs to go into that club with a broom and sweep it out again, because whatever change he made last year didn't work. Didn't work this year. So if he's serious about it, I think he needs to let go of Adrian Dodoro. Really, and other board members that are obviously going to be in the way of Essendon's ambitions, to be honest, including Kevin Sheedy, to be honest. Yes, he's an Essendon legend. We all know, we understand how important he's been to the history of Essendon Football Club for a long period of time. But really, we need to go to a new era, to be honest. We need to leave all these legends behind. We need to leave the drug saga behind, all of this stuff. We need to focus on this new era, because if we don't, then it's just gonna hold us back even more, and we're gonna have more seasons like this. We want to break our finals drought. To be honest. I'm putting the emphasis on Dave Barham, that work that wand of his. And work that wand of his, because I've had enough of the mediocrity. I've had enough of it. But also the one thing, and the second thing also about Brad Scott is he needs to change his coaching tone a bit, because he's relying on his defense way too often. And as I said before, our defense is not the best, and is definitely not the best, for sure. They're not the best. So my question is, why is he keeping on relying on them? Because, and obviously they're not good defenders. Of course, Thatcher, Laverty, especially the part where when Jordan Ridley went out for the rest of the season with injury, it just made our defence a lot more worse, to be honest. So that's my way of thinking, but that just made things a whole lot worse for Essendon, really, on that front. Really. So I think he also needs to change his tone a bit. Obviously, get some attacking style of play into us. To be honest, I think the way that we played again, the few examples were against Carlton, as I said, and then in the third quarter, and the first half against Adelaide was really what we could do in terms of our attack. We were too reliant on our midfield. If our midfield's on top, then no problems in terms of scoring. If they're not, then the forward line gets limited opportunities. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, so as I said, under pressure for me, Dave Barham for me. If he's serious about change, I believe he needs to say. I think he needs to say to Brad Scott, look, you need to change your coaching. You need to change your coaching style because it clearly doesn't work. But the problem is, he'll probably say, "I'm the coach. You're the president. I don't give a stuff about what you say." To be honest. And number two, I think he needs to get rid of Adrian Dodoro because, just to be honest, because unless with him still in there, we're going nowhere in terms of our list manager. We've got Merritt, Redmond, Langford, McGrath, Ridley, just to name a couple, just name a handful. That should be challenging for finals regularly, and we're not. Simple as that. So yeah, but yeah, so that is pretty much it. I've been talking about Essendon for about an hour, for over an hour straight, and that's a pretty good effort for me. I'm gonna go have a drink. So after this, it's gonna be back to the usual, obviously with of course West Coast and then North Melbourne and Hawthorn and that yada yada yada. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing that. Hopefully, I'll get through all the teams from 9th to 18th on the ladder by the start of the finals, as I said. But probably not. But who knows? But yeah. So like this video. Share this to anybody who is also an Essendon fan. Comment down below if you're an Essendon fan. Have you agreed with what I've just said? With every single word that I've just said in this video. Or is there anything else, if you're an Essendon fan, that you would want changing? Then I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And lastly, somewhere down there, click on the big red button which is labelled subscribe. But until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later, and wherever you may be, may the sun or the moon shine on you. It definitely was not shining on Essendon in 2023. Hopefully, 2024, the sun will shine. Hopefully.